action. Hello everyone, my name is Dina Toledo and this is my presentation for EDTC616. The title of my presentation is Assistive Technology for Students with High Incidence Disabilities. First, we're going to start with the scenario. Picture this. You are a teacher in an inclusion ELA class at the secondary level. Several students have disabilities in the classroom. Although these students have disabilities, they are still able to perform academically at the same level as their peers with accommodations and modifications. Before you proceed, you must ask yourself the following questions. What are my students' disabilities? How can I best support my students during instructional time? And what interventions or assistive technology can I try to enhance my students' education and overall academic achievement in my class? So, in the coming slides, we're going to discuss 5 different assistive technologies that can benefit students in the classroom, a rationale for using these technologies, and how these technologies are beneficial for the students in the classroom. The first one, and this is one of my personal favorites, is text-to-speech. This is usually put in IEPs for the students who have a specific learning disability in reading. And reading is a big overarching umbrella that also includes reading comprehension, reading fluency, dyslexia, and visual impairments. Now, text-to-speech has so many benefits. Basically, what you do, and there's different levels depending on what type of device you're using, how to use the text to speech. Basically, what it does is it can read either your entire screen or selected text, and it reads whatever you want. You can choose what voice reads to you. You can choose how fast or how slow it reads. And some of the benefits for these students, especially students with who are SLD reading comprehension, or SLD reading fluency, a lot of the times these students can read or they're struggling with the coding skills. And because of that, they're not able to read the text fast enough and process all of that information. So the text to speech um, helps students with their decoding skills. It can help improve fluency because studies show that if kids are listening to fluent readers, they can become fluent readers as long as they're getting the support and the practice that they need. They can provide access to text on varying levels. So I'll circle back to that. It can help improve comprehension and it allows for student independence. So a lot of times students who have an SLD diagnosis independently, they are reading a grade level behind their peers, sometimes even two in an ICS setting. Although they're reading slightly below grade level, when they are given the text-to-speech tools, they are able to read at a much higher level because the text is being read to them. They can listen and there can be pause points included in whatever assignment that you're giving them. And they can reflect on what they've heard, the text that they've listened to, and move forward from there. But the one big thing that I like, especially for students with visual impairments, the text-to-speech allows the students to hear the text and participate with their peers. And it doesn't look like there's any difference because they're able to get through the same text that their peers can get through. So here are some examples of text-to-speech. In my district, we are all one-to-one with iPads. So in Apple, they actually have text-to-speech embedded in all of their devices. So it's under accessibility features, and the title is Speak Screen. You don't have to download an extra app. It's all built in. And with that, like I said before, you can pick the voices. There, you can pick a male voice or a female voice. If you wanted to have a different accent, you can do that. There's also the one really cool thing, and I'm going to get into this a little bit later, is you can have it highlight the text for you as you read, which is a really cool feature. And to get that, if you have an Apple device, you would go into settings, accessibility, and then spoken content. Another one is Speechify. Speechify is available on Android, iOS, and on the web. Speechify can turn anything into speech. There's PDFs, PowerPoints, anything online, and any documents. If you take a picture of it and you upload it, you can use that also. My students also have access to that because until recently, Speak Screen did not work on photos. And that was the big difference between Speechify and the accessibility features that were built into the iPad. But slowly but surely, Apple is coming around to being on the same level as Speechify. The only difference between Speechify and Speak Screen accessibility features is the voice types that you have. Um, there are some celebrities that sometimes the kids really like, and it can also get the kids more engaged in reading. And the last one is Natural Reader. This is one that I used to use a while ago. I haven't really used it very recently because, in my opinion, we're an iOS district. We have Apple everything. Natural Reader works very well on web-based or Android devices. Um, but again, all three of these programs do the same things. They have a little bit of a couple of differences here and there, but other than that, they're all about the same. The next thing that is super beneficial for students in an ICS program is line readers or pointers. Again, most of the time, these students are reading just below grade level. And line readers and pointers are very good for students who are, again, SLD reading comprehension, reading fluency, students that have dyslexia and vision impairment. Now, this year I have the pleasure of working with a student who has a very severe visual impairment. So seeing some of these features work in real time in these tools, it's very eye-opening. With line readers and pointers, there are so many different types. Most of us, when we're learning how to read in kindergarten and first grade, our teachers give us some sort of line reader or pointer to help us track how we read. Sometimes our older students still need those supports, especially when they're reading longer texts. There are many types of line readers, from using a simple ruler to using a pencil or a pen cap to point to words as somebody is reading. Now, the benefits of line readers and pointers is it can help track the text, it can help with focus, and with certain types of line readers, it can highlight the text as it's being read. Now, I'm going to talk mainly about the physical line readers, but there's a way to add that in when when your students are using a computer. You can have it in the similar way that text to speech works. You can have it highlight. You can have the text highlight and go across the screen, but the sound is on mute so you can't hear it. That way the students can practice reading. And here are some examples. One, like I said, is a ruler. It's really accessible. You can find this literally anywhere in most school settings. The next one is highlighting strips, and this is actually an example, and I'm going to play it again, of the highlighting strips that I have in my classroom. I have a couple different types, and I let the students choose what they want to use, what's going to best help them. I have some students, I personally have two types in my room right now, other than rulers. I do have rulers, but my students don't typically like the rulers because they can't see what's coming next. And a lot of my students are at a point where they are almost independent, and they are ready for that support to go away. So, the highlighting strips, as you can see, they have a colored box in the middle. And as you read and go down the line, you can see what's being highlighted. And only that's how you track when you're reading it. This really helps the students to block out um, any other distractions that they might see coming ahead, and they can focus on one line. There are times where if the words are too difficult, students might skip a word and move down a line. This really helps eliminate that so that students can, as they're reading, they just start to become more fluent. And the last one is popsicle sticks. Um, Popsicle sticks, you can use popsicle sticks, tongue depressors, but the kids point to the words as they read. This can again help the students when they're practicing their decoding skills. And we know that as the kids get older, the words get much harder. So sometimes they are going back and using those strategies that they learned earlier to enhance, to help their reading and enhance their fluency. Raised and bolded lines. This is for students who have visual impairments. Um, Raised and bold lines allow learners with visual impairments to write on paper. Now we're in this era where a lot of people there's a big shift between doing things on paper and doing things mostly digital. And when students have a visual impairment and they are struggling to write, a lot of people will give them the digital device so they can do all of their work digitally. Um, they have a lot of ways to interact, but the downside of that is that when they're interacting with their peers in the classroom, you can tell that there's something different. And the point of being in an ICS classroom and being, um, you know, included with your peers is that nobody can see what your disability is. Now, of course, with students with visual impairment, we all can typically tell, but if everybody in the classroom, let's say there's 19 kids, if 18 kids are doing something on paper and one is doing something on a device, when somebody comes in the classroom, it looks very weird. And then everybody's tries to say, okay, well, if they can do that, why can't I? So this evens the playing field a little bit. Like I said, I have a student this year with visual impairments, and this has been a game changer for that student this year. Raised and bolded lines allow, like I said, learners with visual impairment to write on paper. The lines act as a physical guide to help individuals with low vision to write in a straight line. And this allows student participation without their peers in an inclusion setting without using different materials. So the benefits of this is it allows students to express themselves in a manner that makes their writing legible for themselves and others, and it provides a physical guide to where the letters should be placed when writing. So this actually is an example of one of the modifications that I make for my student. It's really a simple post-it note, and I took a black marker and a ruler and I redid the lines on the paper so that they were bold for him. Um, for bold line paper, these tools can be purchased online. They're pretty inexpensive, but you can also make them with things that you already have in school, which makes things so much easier. You don't have to wait for your package to come from Amazon. You don't have to wait for your school order. Um, all you have to do, you can literally do that with hot glue. You can even use Elmer's glue and make the lines across on the paper. Um, and the next one is raised lines paper. Now, again, that is something that can be purchased online, and you can use hot glue gun to make the lines pop up. You can use puffy paint. But all of these things are typical things that you would already have in your classroom. So it makes things so much easier. And the technology, it's very low level tech. Um, with high rewards for the students. The next thing I want to discuss is fidgets. Now, fidgets can help students with OHI diagnoses um, like ADHD, ADD, anxiety, and autism. Um, Fidgets can help students regulate their moods, it can help them focus, and it can help them with their concentration. One of the big debates right now is that fidgets are seen as toys in the classroom, and a lot of teachers are even banning fidgets from being in their classroom because they can be a distraction. But with careful consideration, and if you go and you do your due diligence, you can find fidgets to integrate into your classroom that will actually help the students that are there. Every fidget is not going to work for everybody, and that's really important to think about and keep in the front of our minds when we talk about fidgets. Now, again, fidgets can help students regulate their mood, it can help them focus, it can even help them self-soothe, and we'll get more into that a little bit later. And it can break up the monotony of being stationary for long periods of time. And that's something that, as the classes get longer, the kids get older, they're sitting in their seats for much longer. And if they have some sort of fidget that can help them move, that would help them stay focused on their work and be successful in the classroom. So here are some examples, and I've actually used all three of these examples in my classes. My favorite of the three is calm strips. Calm strips are really, really simple. You can get them anywhere, they're very affordable. You can even make your own version of these. So basically, a calm strip is like this small piece of textured paper, and it can stick to desks, devices, chairs, or any space in the room. I gave one to one student recently, and that student cut it and put it on the space bar of their device. And I said, "Well, why did you put it there?" And the student explained to me, "Well, when I get nervous, I was picking at he, this student is a picker, and he put it over the space bar so he would stop picking at the keyboard to destroy it." Um, this is the one thing I love about comm strips. They don't have to just go on devices. They can go on desks. They can go on the legs of the desk. They can go at the top, anywhere. They're so discreet. And again, not everything is going to work for everybody, but this one is so discreet that anybody can use it. I even put it under the desk one year for a student. The next one is a kick band or a fidget band, and this is something that I personally used and it helped me during COVID. I ended up going back in the building before the students did, and I was very anxious. I also suffer from adult ADHD, so I found a random workout band and I put it on the bottom of my desk. And I found that I was using it so often that when the students came back into the classroom, they were all separated, and I noticed that they were all very, very antsy. And I put workout bands on the bottom of desks, and it actually worked perfectly. There were students who chose to use them and students that, of course, didn't. I made it so that every desk in my classroom had one. The kids that needed it used it, the kids that didn't use it. They didn't get in the way, they were just there. Um, these are elastic bands, like I said, that are placed at the bottom of the desk. Sometimes, depending on what type of classroom furniture you have, they can even go around the legs of the chair. Um, and these bands can increase focus and provide students multiple opportunities to move their legs in different ways. So the band that is pictured is one solid band, but there are some bands that um, are round exactly like rubber bands, and the kids can put their legs in between and move their legs back and forth and have some resistance. And they're amazing. The last example is a Chewy. Now we know that we can all think back to our when we were in school and there was always a kid that had a chewed up pencil. That child probably needed a Chewy. Pencils are very dangerous. They can splinter, they can get stuck in your tongue, your cheek, your lips. And chewies are the alternative to doing that. If you notice a student is chewing on a pen cap, if they swallow that, they could get very, very hurt in the classroom. So these are safe alternatives to that. Most of the time, you see these on the back of pencils or in the hands of students um, who are diagnosed with ASD in some way, shape, or form. And these can be added onto the back of pencils, onto the back of pens, onto the back of styluses, or there's the ones that you can just hold right in your hand. And basically, if you notice that a child is chewing, they could use this as a safe alternative. And these can help with anxiety because studies have found that a lot of the students who are biting pencils and pens, they have some form of anxiety, even, and it goes unnoticed because those are very little things. The kids are not chewing at their fingers, they're not it's not a self-harm thing, but we know that again, they can get hurt chewing on pens and pencils and things like that. The next thing is voice amplifiers. Now, these can benefit all the students in the class depending on what type you're using, but these are really geared toward students who have OHI with deafness or hard of hearing. There are several types of voice amplifiers on the market, and voice amplifiers can basically be used in the classroom to help all of the students. Students who are deaf or hard of hearing have the most benefit by using these voice amplifiers because they can hear the teacher's voice, sometimes right in their hearing aid or in their cochlear implant, which really benefits them. Using voice amplifiers can help the students hear what's happening in the classroom. It can help them hear their peers and follow along in the classroom. Some examples are a portable voice amplifier. Most brands, this is the most popular of all of these, and they have little speakers. They connect with a wire to a headset, and they really remind me of back in the day, like McDonald's headsets with the speaker at the bottom. Most of the time, the speaker is somewhere on the teacher's body, and it just simply makes the voice louder. It does its job. It's not 100% the best, but it can help, especially if a student who's hard of hearing is sitting close to the front of the room. The next one is the Phonak Roger touchscreen, and this is actually the example right here. Now, this can go directly into a student's hearing aid or cochlear implant via Bluetooth to amplify the sound of the teacher's voice during the instruction. Now, this device actually hangs on a lanyard around the teacher's neck. They also have microphones that the other students can hold. That way, the student who is hard of hearing, they can hear everything that's happening in the classroom. It's actually pretty amazing. The last one is front row. Now, I was blessed to work in a district once upon a time where every single classroom was equipped with front row pros. Now, Front Row is a company that specializes in creating tools to add to classrooms and schools to help all types of communication. They do whole building communication, they do classroom, they can even do things on different wings. And these devices, basically, it's a necklace that you wear and it has a microphone in it. You can turn it on or off, like you can mute it, and it attaches to an amplification, a transmitter in the classroom, and the transmitter then sends that sound there. I used it in 2012, so it had a delay back then. The new ones, the delay is much fat. There's not that much of a delay, but it then takes that sound and spreads it throughout the classroom. That way, the students that are in the front row hear the exact same as the kids that are in the back row. That way, your students who are hard of hearing and have cochlear implants can sit literally anywhere in the classroom. They are seamlessly integrated using these different technologies. It's actually amazing seeing front row in play. And that's really it. These assistive technologies, again, they go from very, very low to very, very advanced. And as long as we're doing something in the classroom and we're including our students and we sit and we think about how is this going to help our students and how are we going to best meet their needs, all of that goes into play and our students can then, be more successful. Thank you.